One fun thing I wanted to ask you about, you talk about meeting your husband, who's referred to only as S in the story, but you also talk about when you met him, one of his friends was way cuter. Has he read this book, and how does he feel about that observation?
He's amused. He's been amused by me since the day we met, so, it wasn't really a problem. And of course, I didn't tell him that then. I told him that later. So, yeah.
After he was fully assured that you came around and found him cutest after all.
Yeah. Which, is further proof for high school girls that it's not the cute ones necessarily that make the best boyfriends.
And then something I wanted to ask you about, from both the book and from your life, you had a friend that was involved in, I think, a 1974 kidnapping of an heiress.
I did.
The way you described it, it's almost like a neighbor talking about a serial killer. They were quiet and unassuming. What happened? How did that change your perspective on character, and what did that experience teach you?
Well, I wasn't writing then, but it drastically changed my perception of pretty much everything, specifically in terms of writing. That came into play as I, learned about writing characters or creating characters. Was, here was a person that I knew, and I knew her as a good person, which she was a good person, yet she had done this thing that was clearly wrong. How do you think about that? As a young person, you're not generally called upon to think about, that's usually an abstract question, but in this case, it was a concrete, real question. And so for me, it was, so she did this terrible thing. Does that mean I shouldn't be her friend anymore? And I thought, well, isn't friendship really about being a friend no matter what? She hasn't changed to me, but just to make a very long story short, what it taught me was about the complexity of people, and that then I started to think, well, every other person in prison who I think of as just a terrible person also has people like me outside who know that person as a good person. And so what exactly does that mean? Bad people do good things, people do bad things, and that's really interesting. So, when you indulge yourself in thinking of people as one way or another, you so don't see the whole spectrum of humanity. You just don't. I mean, even with the good person, it amuses me sometimes because people that, you think of as good, aren't they like sometimes annoying because they are good in ways that make them feel good, like they're giving you something, but is it the thing that you want or need, or is it the thing that they want you to give you or want you to need? And so, I just started looking at people in a really different way after that. And it really was what finally made me start writing, because I thought, I was 25. I had a couple of kids at that time and married, and I loved my husband. I loved my life, but I also knew that I wanted more. And so I thought, I don't really want to kidnap somebody. That seems drastic, but I do want something that I believe in, and writing was that for me. And so it sort of set me on my path, and it changed me in that way. It was a profound experience, if for no other reason than the fact that I, a 25-year-old person living in Indiana, suddenly found myself in the realm of an international story. And that was weird, and I had my own little personal relationship with the FBI and all that, because of a variety of things. But anyway, that was really interesting.
Well, that's a second podcast. We're gonna have to drill down on that sometime.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing. You think, oh, the FBI, they're here to help us. They're not. That wasn't my experience. So anyway, yeah, whole other thing.
Maybe off the air, I'll ask you some follow-up questions about that.
We'll talk about it on the air any farther than that. But
no, anybody that reads the history of the civil rights movement, you can't come away with that and tell me conspiracies don't exist. Sure, they do. There they are.
Yeah, they're there. Yeah, they are, or were, or are.
Let's see. Lots of different questions for you, and I know I'm burning up your time and talking your face off.
And I'll try to answer them quickly, more quickly.
One thing I definitely wanted to ask you about, because you're brave enough to include one of your rejections in the novel. It just drove me nuts on your behalf reading
Thank
it,
you.
and I want to share it with people so that they can also feel it, and then you could talk about this experience, because I've received matting rejections. Anybody that's in the game long enough has probably received.
Yeah.
I don't know if this though. I love this one, is what this editor says of your novel. Let me say that again. I love this one! Exclamation point. It was one of those special novels that I hope against hope I would be able to buy. However, I did not get the same reaction in readings from the powers that be, and so I am forced to send this lovely gem back to you. Oh my God!
I know.
How does that not ruin your week?
You don't know what to think about it, because that was during that long period of time where I went, between the two books. And sometimes I would think I would just like to get a rejection that said, "This is the worst writer I've ever read. She really should be an accountant." And then it would be clear, to me that I should just stop. But I got a lot of those, not quite like that, but yeah, it's really difficult. And then I had another weird experience where that same book eventually morphed into a young adult book, and it was Hyperion. And so I redid it, sent it to them. My editor loved it, went to New York, had that conversation, and then about 4 months later, everybody got fired, and they totally redid the whole division. And the new person didn't think it was finished. And so then, what do you do? Because you think, all right, this New York person was ready to publish it. She thinks it's terrific. And now this other New York publisher, equally, powerful in that world, doesn't think that. So that was a great lesson to me, in the subjectivity of it. As it turned out, the second person was actually right. And when I redid it, it was better. I solved a problem that I sort of knew was there, but thought was unsolvable, but in fact it was. So when I was pushed to do it, it actually worked. But it was a good lesson to me, because you can't know. You're never going to get anything definitive from anyone. So just deal with it. It's not like a multiple choice test where you either get them right or you don't, or true, false, or whatever. It's just a big fat mess.
Yeah, even if you write a book that goes on to become wonderfully acclaimed, the whole world says, "This is Harry Potter, the Second Coming, we love it," there's still going to be a part of you. I'm sure J.K. Rowling has bits that she's insecure about within her magnum opus, and if she doesn't, get in touch, Miss Rowling. I'll point out a couple.